The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the stars, 12 massive alien ships moved like hunters stalking their prey. Each ship was the size of a small city, covered in dark metal that seemed to drink in the starlight. Strange blue lights pulsed along their hulls like heartbeats. Fleet Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His pale blue skin gleamed under the bridge lights, and his large black eyes studied the display screens before him. The Zephyrian had conquered 17 star systems in his long career. Today would make it 18. "Commander," called his second-in-command from across the bridge, "we have found the human vessel." Vextar's lipless mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his people. The humans were a newly discovered species from a small blue planet. Their technology seemed primitive compared to the mighty Zephyrian Empire. This would be easy. "Show me," Vextar commanded. The main screen flickered to life. There, floating alone in the void, was a single human ship. It looked tiny compared to the Zephyrian fleet. The vessel was gray and angular, with what appeared to be weapon systems mounted along its sides. Strange markings covered its hull in the human language. "USS Defiance," read the ship's communications officer, struggling with the alien words. "It appears to be some kind of military vessel." Vextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "One ship? They send 1 ship against 12 of ours?" On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the alien fleet approach on his screens. He was a man in his 40s with gray hair and calm blue eyes. He had served in the human space fleet for 20 years and had seen many things, but never anything like this. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her position at the tactical station. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. "I'm reading 12 large vessels approaching our position." "They're big, sir, really big." "I can see that, Lieutenant," Morrison replied quietly. He pressed a button on his chair. "Chief Rodriguez, report to the bridge." Within moments, Chief Petty Officer Sam Rodriguez entered the bridge. He was a stocky man with dark hair and oil stains on his uniform. As the ship's chief engineer, he knew every bolt and wire in the Defiance. "You called, Captain?" Rodriguez asked. "Take a look at those ships, Chief. What do you think?" Rodriguez studied the alien vessels on the screen. After a moment, he whistled. "Low, they're advanced, sir. Energy signatures I've never seen before, but ... double quotes." He paused, looking thoughtful. "But what? They're built for show, Captain." "All that size, all those lights. They want to scare people." From her station at communications, Ensign Katie Bell looked up. She was barely 22, blonde and nervous. This was her first real assignment. "Captain, they're trying to contact." Put them through," Morrison ordered. The screen changed to show Vextar alien face. His black eyes seemed to look right through the human captain. When he spoke, his voice was cold and mechanical through the translation system. "Human vessel," Vextar began, "you are surrounded and outgunned. Your primitive technology cannot stand against the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Captain Morrison stood up slowly. He straightened his uniform and looked directly at the alien commander. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Fleet. We will not surrender." Vextar's expression showed surprise. In his experience, primitive species always surrendered when faced with superior force. "You do not understand, human. We have conquered 17 star systems. Entire civilizations have fallen before us. You are one small ship." "I understand." "Perfectly," Morrison replied calmly. "You're trying to scare us with big ships and threats. But you made one mistake." "What mistake?" Vextar demanded. Morrison smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "You assume we're afraid." The alien commander felt something he had not experienced in many years: uncertainty. This human showed no fear, no panic. Most species begged for mercy. "By now, your bravery is foolish," Vextar said. "We will take your ship apart, piece by piece. Your crew will become slaves in our empire." "Chief Rodriguez," Morrison said without taking his eyes off the screen, "are our systems ready?" "All systems." "Green, Captain," Rodriguez replied with a grin. The boys in research and development outdid themselves this time. Lieutenant Carter checked her displays. "Weapon systems online, Captain. All batteries report ready?" Ensign Bell's voice was steadier now. "Communications are clear, sir." "All channels open," Morrison nodded. "Commander Vextar, I'm going to give you one chance. Take your fleet and leave our space. Go back to whatever rock you crawled out from under." The alien bridge fell silent. Vextar S officers looked at each other in disbelief. No primitive species had ever spoken to their commander this way. "You dare threaten us?" Vextar roared. "We will crush you like insects." "No," Morrison said quietly. "You won't." The screen went dark as the human captain cut the connection. On the Zephyrian flagship, Vextar turned to his weapons officer. "Target their engines. Disable them. I want the crew alive so they can see what happens to those who defy the Empire." "Yes, Commander," the weapons officer replied. "Shall the First order the other ships to assist?" Vextar waved a dismissive hand. 3 ships should be enough for one primitive vessel. The rest can watch and learn." As the alien ships moved into attack position, Captain Morrison sat back down in his chair. He looked around at his crew: Amy Carter at Tactical, Sam Rodriguez at Engineering, Katie Bell at Communications. They were young, but they were ready. "Remember," Morrison said calmly, "they think we're primitive. They think they know what we can do. They're about to learn how wrong they are." The USS Defiance hung in space, looking small and helpless against the approaching alien giants, but looks could be deceiving. The human ship waited, patient as a spider in its web dot in the darkness between the stars. The real hunt was about to begin. 3 Zephyrian battle cruisers broke away from the main fleet and moved toward the USS Defiance. Each ship was 10 times larger than the human vessel, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that flickered like soap bubbles in the starlight. On. The lead alien ship, Sub-Commander Quixano, watched the human vessel through his targeting systems. The small ship just floated there, making no attempt to run or hide. It seemed to be waiting. "Foolish humans," Quixano muttered to his crew. "They do not even try to escape." Commander Vextar's voice crackled through the communications system. "Disable their engines only. I want prisoners to question." "Understood?" "Commander," Quixano replied. He turned to his weapons officer. "Minimum power. Target their rear section only." On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Morrison watched the 3 alien ships approach. They moved slowly, confidently, like cats stalking. "A mouse. Distance?" Morrison asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, Lieutenant Carter reported. "They're taking their time, Captain." "Good," Morrison said. "Let them get closer. Chief Rodriguez, are you ready?" Rodriguez grinned from his engineering station. "The new systems are online, Captain. The lab boys said this stuff was experimental, but it looks solid to me." "What exactly are we dealing with, Chief?" asked Ensign Bell nervously. Rodriguez's grin widened. "Well, those alien ships use energy shields, right? They're designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, that sort of thing. But they never thought about old-fashioned physics." "Meaning?" Morrison prompted. "Meaning we're going to hit them with something they can't stop. Pure kinetic energy. Mass times velocity squared. Just like throwing rocks, but really, really fast rocks. The alien ships moved closer. Their plasma cannons began to glow with deadly energy. 30,000 kilometers, Carter reported. They're charging weapons. Morrison leaned forward in his chair. Amy, prepare Protocol 7. Carter's fingers danced over her control panel. Protocol 7 ready, Captain. All systems show green. Katie, open a channel to the fleet, Morrison ordered. Channel open, sir, Bell replied. This is Captain Morrison to all Earth vessels in this sector. The party is about to start. Stay clear and enjoy the show. The alien weapons officer on Crixinus' ship called out, We are in range, Sub-Commander, ready to fire. Fire, Crixina ordered. 3 streams of blue plasma erupted from the alien ships, racing toward the Defiance. The energy beams were designed to overload a ship's systems without destroying it completely. Incoming, Carter shouted. Now, Morrison commanded. The USS Defiance suddenly exploded into motion. The ship that had been floating quietly in space revealed its true nature. Hidden engines flared to life, pushing the vessel forward at incredible speed. The human ship didn't just move. It leaped through space like a bullet from a gun. The alien. Plasma beams passed harmlessly through empty space where the Defiance had been a split second before. What? Crixina stared at his displays in shock. Where did it go? His question was answered immediately. The human ship had not run away. It had charged directly at them. The Defiance was now racing toward the alien vessels at a speed that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. How are they moving so fast? The alien weapons officer demanded. On the Defiance's bridge, Rodriguez called out readings. Engines at 120% of rated power, Captain. The new fusion cores are working perfectly. Morrison smiled grimly. The aliens think they know our technology. They've been watching us for months, studying our old ships. They have no idea what we've been building. The human ship closed the distance in seconds. As it approached the first alien vessel, the Defiance's true weapons revealed themselves. Not energy weapons like the aliens expected, but something much simpler and far more deadly. Firing main guns. Carter announced. The human ship shuddered as its primary weapons fired. But instead of energy beams, the Defiance launched solid projectiles. Dense metal rods, accelerated to nearly the speed of light by magnetic rails. The first projectile struck the leading alien ship dead center. The energy shields that could stop any plasma weapon meant nothing against pure mass moving at relativistic speeds. The metal rod punched through the shield as if it wasn't there, then through the ship's hull, then out the other side. The alien vessel simply came apart. The kinetic energy was so enormous that the ship's structure couldn't hold together. Pieces of metal and alien technology scattered in all directions like an exploding firework. First target destroyed, Carter reported with satisfaction. The second alien ship tried to turn away, but the human projectiles were too fast. Another metal rod struck it amidships, and this battlecruiser suffered the same fate as the first. It broke apart in a shower of debris. Crixina, commanding the third ship, watched in horror as his 2 escorts were destroyed in seconds. Impossible, he whispered. Our shield should have stopped anything. He grabbed his communications officer. Contact the fleet. Tell them the humans have weapons we don't understand. But before the message could be sent, the USS Defiance fired. A third time. This projectile was different. It was designed not to destroy, but to disable. It struck Crixina's ship at an angle, ripping through non-essential sections and destroying the engines while leaving the crew alive. The alien battlecruiser spun helplessly in space, its power failing, its weapons offline. On the Defiance, Morrison opened communications to the disabled alien ship. Attention, Zephyrian vessel. Your ship is dead in space. Your escorts are destroyed. Do you surrender? Crixna stared at the human captain on his screen. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, and his bridge was filled with smoke. How? He asked. Weakly, how did you destroy ships 10 times your size? Morrison's expression was patient, like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. You made assumptions about us. You thought you understood our technology because you watched our old ships. You never considered that we might be improving. Your weapons, they ignore our shields. Energy shields stop energy weapons, Morrison explained. But physics is physics. Mass times velocity equals force. We just made sure our mass was moving very, very fast. The human captain leaned forward. Now, Sub-Commander Crixna. Yes, we know your name. You have 2 choices. You can surrender and we'll rescue your crew, or you can try to fight with a dead ship. What's it going to be? Crixna looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was unconscious, and the other half looked terrified. He had never seen fear on Zephyrian faces before today. Double quotes. We ... We surrender, he said quietly. Morrison nodded. Smart choice. We'll send rescue ships for your crew. As the communication ended, Morrison turned to his officers. Status report. All systems normal, Rodriguez reported. The new engines performed better than expected. The magnetic railguns worked perfectly. Excellent shooting, Amy, Morrison said to his tactical officer. Carter smiled. Thank you, sir. The targeting computers made it easy once we got close enough. Ensign Bell looked up from her station. Captain, I'm picking up communications from the main alien fleet. They sound ... upset, Morrison chuckled. I imagine they are. They just watched one human ship destroy 2 of their battle cruisers and disable a third in under a minute. He stood up and walked to the main view screen, where the remaining 9 alien ships hung in space, no longer advancing. Katie, open a channel to their flagship. Channel open, sir. Commander Vextar's face appeared on the screen. The alien leader's composure was gone. His black eyes were wide with shock, and something that might have been fear. You destroyed my ships, Vextar said, his voice barely controlled. Yes, Morrison replied simply. You attacked us. We defended ourselves. This is impossible. No primitive species has such weapons. Morrison smiled coldly. Commander, you've made 2 mistakes. First, you assumed we were primitive just because our old ships looked simple. Second, you assumed that because you'd conquered other species easily, you could conquer us the same way. The alien commander's hands shook slightly. What are you? We're humans, Morrison said, and we've been waiting for you. Commander Vextar stared at the human captain on his screen, trying to understand what had just happened. In less than 5 minutes, one small human ship had destroyed 2 of his battle cruisers and disabled a third. Ships that had conquered Star. Systems were now floating debris. You've been waiting for us? Vextar repeated slowly. Captain Morrison nodded. Did you really think we wouldn't notice a fleet of 12 massive ships moving through our space? We've been tracking you for weeks. The alien commander felt something cold in his stomach. Tracking us? Long-range sensors, Commander. We knew you were coming before you knew we existed. On the Zephyrian flagship, the communications officer leaned over to whisper urgently in Vextar's ear. The commander's face grew pale as he listened. Morrison watched the alien's reaction with interest. Let me guess. Your communications officer just told you that your calls for reinforcements haven't been answered. Vextar's 4 hands clenched into fists. How could you know that? Because we've been listening to your communications since you entered our space. Your reinforcement fleet ran into some ... complications ... about 6 hours ago. The truth hit Vextar like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just been watching, they had been planning. This wasn't an accidental encounter. It was a trap. On the Defiance, Lieutenant Carter monitored the alien fleet's movements. "Captain, they're trying to surround us. 9 ships moving. Into attack formation." "Let them," Morrison said calmly. "Chief Rodriguez, how are our special systems holding up?" Rodriguez checked his panels. "All green, Captain. The stealth generators are working perfectly. The decoy projectors are ready. And the mines ... He grinned. "The mines are deployed and waiting." Ensign Bell looked confused. "Mines, Chief? Nuclear mines, kid?" "We dropped them while we were talking to the aliens. They're floating out there. Right now, invisible to their sensors." Morrison walked to the tactical display. "The aliens use energy-based everything. Energy shields, energy weapons, energy sensors. They've never had to deal with good old-fashioned nuclear explosions." The alien fleet completed their encirclement. 9 massive ships now surrounded the lone human vessel, their weapons charged and ready. Vexstar opened communications again. "Human Captain, you are now surrounded. Whatever trick you used before will not work against 9 ships. Surrender now." Morrison appeared to consider this. "You know what, Commander? You're right. 9 ships is a lot. Tell you what, I'll make you a deal." "What deal?" "You and your fleet leave our space right now, and we'll let you go. No more fighting, no more death." Vexstar's laugh was bitter. "You are in no position to make demands, human." "Actually, I am." Morrison's voice became serious. "You see, Commander, you're not just fighting one ship. You're fighting humanity. And we have some rules about warfare that you should know." "What rules?" "Rule 1, never fight fair if you can help it. Rule 2, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Rule 3, there's no such thing as overkill." Vexstar felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" Morrison smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "I mean, you're about to learn why humans are the only species that ever domesticated wolves." The alien commander cut the communication and turned to his fleet. "All ships attack. Destroy that vessel." 9 Zephyrian battlecruisers opened fire at once. The space around the USS Defiance lit up with plasma beams and energy weapons. It should have been impossible for any ship to survive such an assault. But the Defiance vanished. "Where did it go?" Vexstar screamed at his sensor officer. "I don't know, Commander. It just disappeared." What the aliens didn't know was that the Defiance hadn't disappeared. It had become invisible. Human stealth technology was based on a completely different principle than alien. Sensors could detect. While the aliens fired at empty space, the real Defiance moved among them like a ghost. At the same time, the ship's computers projected multiple false targets throughout the battle area. Targets everywhere. Called out the Zephyrian sensor operator. "I'm reading dozens of human ships." The alien fleet found themselves shooting at phantoms, while the real threat moved unseen among them. Then the human ship began its counterattack. The first alien battlecruiser exploded without warning. One moment it was firing its weapons. The next it was expanding debris field. The ship had been destroyed by a nuclear mine that had drifted right up to its hull. "How?" Vexstar demanded. "Where did that come from?" A second ship died the same way, then a third. The nuclear mines were invisible to Zephyrian sensors, and they packed enough destructive power to crack planets. "Commander," called the weapons officer, "the mines are everywhere. We can't see them." That was when the USS Defiance reappeared, right in the middle of the alien formation. The human ship's weapons opened fire, but these weren't the kinetic projectiles from before. These were different, missiles that curved and twisted through space like living things. "Evasive maneuvers," Vexstar ordered, but the human missiles followed every movement the alien ships made. They were smart weapons, guided by artificial intelligence that could outthink any pilot. One by one, the missiles found their targets. They didn't rely on explosive warheads. Instead, they carried electromagnetic pulse generators that fried every electronic system they touched. 2 more Zephyrian ships went dark, their crews left helpless as their technology died around them. In minutes, the mighty alien fleet was reduced to 4 working ships and 3 derelicts drifting in space. Morrison opened communications again. "Commander Vextar, I believe we were discussing surrender terms." The alien commander looked around his bridge. Half his officers were working frantically to keep basic systems running. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "How?" Vextar asked weakly. "How is this possible? You want to know the real difference between humans and every other species you've conquered?" Morrison asked. "You fight to show your strength. We fight to win. Your technology should be inferior to ours." "Should be, yes. But you made another mistake, Commander. You assumed that technology was just about having the biggest guns and the strongest shields." Morrison leaned forward. "Human technology isn't about being the most advanced. It's about being the most effective. We don't build weapons to impress people. We build them to end fights quickly." Chief Rodriguez's voice came through the bridge speakers. "Captain, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the remaining alien ships. I think they're preparing for a suicide run." Morrison sighed. "Commander Vextar, please don't do anything stupid. You've lost. Accept it." But Vextar wasn't listening. The defeat had driven him beyond reason. "If we cannot have victory, we will have revenge. All ships ramming speed." The 4 remaining alien battlecruisers turned toward the Defiance, there, engines straining to build up speed for a final desperate attack. Morrison shook his head sadly. "Katie, send a message to Admiral Hayes. Tell her to come in fast." "Already here, Captain." Hayes' voice came through the communication system. On the main screen, space suddenly filled with human ships. Not 1 or 2, but dozens. Sleek destroyers, massive battleships, and carrier vessels that launched clouds of fighter craft. The Zephyrian suicide charge faltered as the aliens found themselves facing an entire human battle fleet. Admiral Lisa Hayes appeared on the communication screen. She was a stern-looking woman in her 50s, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. "Commander Vextar," she said formally, "I am Admiral Hayes of the United Earth Fleet. You are hereby ordered to surrender your remaining vessels immediately." Vextar looked at the human fleet surrounding him. Dozens of ships, all armed with the same impossible weapons that had destroyed his fleet. "How many ships do you have?" he whispered. Admiral Hayes smiled grimly. "Enough, Commander. More than enough." Commander Vextar stared at the human fleet surrounding his battered ships. Dozens of vessels hung in space like predators circling wounded prey. His mighty armada, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, was now nothing more than scrap metal and dead crew members floating in the void. "This cannot be," he whispered to himself. "We are the greatest military force in the galaxy." On his bridge, Sub-Commander Krillana worked frantically at the communication station. She was younger than Vextar, with the quick mind that came with youth. As she listened to human military transmissions, her face grew pale. "Commander," she called urgently, "you need to hear this." Vextar turned to her, his black eyes hollow with defeat. "What is it?" "I've been monitoring human communications, trying to understand their military structure." Krillana's voice shook. "Commander, the ship that destroyed our fleet, it's not a battleship." "What do you mean?" "According to their own transmissions, the USS Defiance is classified as a light patrol vessel. It's one of their smallest military ships." The words hit Vextar like a physical blow. "That's impossible." "There's more," Krillana continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're real warships. Commander, they have vessels that make the Defiance look like a toy. On the human flagship, Admiral Hayes stood on her bridge, watching the alien fleet through her viewscreen. She was a veteran of 30 years in space, and she had seen many battles. But this was different. This was the first time humanity had faced an alien empire. Status report, she ordered. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system from the Defiance. All targets neutralized, Admiral. 4 alien ships still functional, but they're not going anywhere. Casualties? None on our side. The aliens lost about 3,000 crew members when their ships were destroyed. Hayes nodded grimly. 3,000 dead aliens. She felt no joy in the victory, only the weight of responsibility. Any sign of their reinforcements? Negative. Admiral Chun's battle group intercepted them near the Neptune station 6 hours ago. The aliens surrendered without a fight once they saw what happened to their advance fleet. Good. Hayes turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the alien commander. Commander Vextar's face appeared on the screen. The proud alien warrior looked broken, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. Commander, Hayes began. I want to discuss terms for the surrender of your remaining vessels. We will not surrender, Vextar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Commander, you don't have a choice. Your fleet is destroyed. Your reinforcements have been captured. Your empire doesn't even know what happened to you yet. Vextar's eyes widened. How could you know that? Because we've been intercepting your communications for months. We know about your invasion plans. We know about your other fleets. We know about your home world. The alien commander felt the last of his hope drain away. You've been watching us all this time? Yes. Did you think we wouldn't notice when you started massing ships near our border? Human intelligence services have been tracking Zephyrian fleet movements for 8 months. Admiral Hayes walked closer to the screen. Commander, I want you to understand something. This battle wasn't an accident. It wasn't even really a battle. It was a demonstration. What do you mean? We could have destroyed your entire fleet the moment you entered our space. We could have used long-range missiles, or orbital weapon platforms, or any number of other systems. Instead, we sent one ship. Vextar stared at her. Why? Because we wanted your empire to get a message. We wanted them to understand exactly what they're dealing with. On the Zephyrian bridge, Hrilana had been listening to more human transmissions. What she heard made her stomach turn to ice. Commander, she said urgently, I'm picking up references to something called Project Fortress. It seems to be some kind of defensive network. Hayes heard the alien's words through the open communication channel. Your communications officer is very good. Commander, yes, Project Fortress exists. What is it? Vextar demanded. Every human colony, every space station, every important facility is protected by automated defense systems. Weapons platforms that make our ships look primitive. If you had attacked any of our worlds directly, you would have faced firepower that could crack moons. The alien commander felt something he had never experienced before. True terror. You're bluffing. Am I? Hayes smiled coldly. Katie, show them. On the alien screens, images appeared of massive human installations in space. Weapon platforms, the size of asteroids, surrounded by clouds of automated fighters. Energy readings that made the Zephyrian fleet look like toys. These have been waiting for you, Hayes explained. For months. Every time your scouts entered our space, they were watched by systems like these. Vextar could barely speak. How ... How many do you have? Enough. More than enough. Commander, your empire has been planning to invade us for a year. We've been planning to defend ourselves for much longer. The truth was even worse than Vextar had imagined. The humans hadn't just been watching. They had been preparing for war on a scale he couldn't comprehend. But we are the greatest military power in the galaxy, he said weakly. Admiral Hayes shook her head. No, Commander. You were the greatest military power that anyone knew about. Humans have never been conquered because we've never let anyone know what we're really capable of. Captain Morrison's voice joined the conversation. Commander, your empire conquered 17 star systems. But you conquered them by showing up with overwhelming force and demanding surrender. You never had to fight anyone who fought back. We are warriors, Vextar protested. No, Morrison said gently. You're bullies. There's a difference. Warriors fight other warriors. Bullies pick on people who can't fight back. The alien commander looked around his ruined bridge. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders he couldn't give. For the first time in his life, Vextar understood what his victims had felt when his fleet appeared in their skies. What do you want from us? He asked quietly. Admiral Hayes considered the question. That depends on you, Commander. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. What is the easy way? You take your remaining ships and go home. You tell your empire exactly what happened here. You explain that humans are not a species to be conquered, and you make sure this never happens again. And the hard way? Hayes' expression became stone. Cold, we come to your home world and demonstrate our capabilities there. Trust me, Commander, you don't want that. Vextar thought about his home world, with its beautiful crystal cities and billions of Zephyrian citizens. He imagined human ships in orbit above those cities, carrying weapons that could destroy entire fleets. If we agree to leave, he said slowly, what guarantee do we have that you won't attack us later? Because we don't want to fight you, Commander. We never did. All we wanted was to be left alone. Morrison's voice added, your empire conquered other species because they were easy targets. We're not easy targets. We're the species that other species call when they need help with their nightmares. The alien commander closed his eyes. In one day, everything he had believed about his empire, about warfare, about power itself, had been shattered. We will leave, he said finally. We will take your message to our empire. Good, Admiral Hayes said. But Commander, if we ever see Zephyrian ships in human space again, there won't be any talking. Do you understand? Vextar nodded slowly. I understand. As the communication ended, he turned to his crew. Prepare the surviving ships for departure. We're going home. What will you tell the High Command? Krillana asked. Vextar looked out. At the human fleet surrounding them. The truth. All of it. They need to know what we've awakened. 3 weeks later, Commander Vextar stood before the High Council of the Zephyrian Empire. The great chamber was filled with the most powerful beings in known space. Military commanders who had conquered star systems. Scientists who had unlocked the secrets of faster-than-light travel. And politicians who ruled over trillions of subjects. But today, they all listened in stunned silence as Vextar delivered his report. A human fleet consists of technologies we do not understand. He sighed, his voice steady but hollow. They do not fight as we fight. They do not think as we think. They are ... double quotes. He paused, searching for words. They are something new. High Counselor Zexthara, an ancient Zephyrian with scars from 100 battles, leaned forward. You are telling. That one human ship destroyed 8 of our battle cruisers? Yes, High Counselor. And that their weapons ignore our energy shields? Yes, High Counselor. And that they have been watching our fleets for months without our knowledge? Vextar's shoulders sagged. Yes, High Counselor. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some demanded immediate retaliation against the humans. Others called for massive military buildup. A few suggested retreating to the core systems and fortifying their defenses. Silence. Zexthara commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. The chamber fell quiet. Commander Vexstar, show us the recordings. Vexstar activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. The council watched in horrified fascination as the battle played out before them. They saw the USS Defiance, so small compared to the Zephyrian fleet. They watched their mighty battle cruisers, torn apart by weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. When the recording ended, the chamber was silent for a long moment. "How is this possible?" whispered Counselor Mercata, the Empire's chief scientist. "Their technology should be centuries behind ours." "That's what we thought," Vexstar replied. "We were wrong. The humans don't follow our path of technological development. They think differently about everything: warfare, engineering, strategy." High Counselor Zexthara studied the tactical displays. "What do you mean?" "We build bigger ships with stronger shields and more powerful weapons. We focus on overwhelming force. The humans focus on being unpredictable. They use whatever works, regardless of how primitive it seems." Sub-Commander Krillana, who had accompanied Vexstar to the council, stepped forward. "High Counselor, if I may. During our encounter, I intercepted human communications. What I learned changes everything we know about galactic power. Speak." "The humans have been preparing for war with us for over a year. Not just building ships, but studying our psychology, our tactics, our weaknesses. They know more about us than we know about ourselves." Counselor Mercata scoffed. "Impossible. We are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy." Krillana activated another display. This is a recording of human military communications during the battle. Listen carefully. The council heard Admiral Hayes speaking to her fleet. "Remember, people, these aliens have conquered 17 systems by intimidation. They've never faced real resistance. Show them what happens when they pick on someone their own size." "You." "See?" Krillana said. "They knew exactly how we operate. They knew we would try to scare them into surrender. They were counting on it." Vexstar nodded grimly. "The humans have been watching every species we've conquered. They studied how we fight, how we think, how we make decisions. Then they prepared countermeasures for everything." "What kind of countermeasures?" Zexthara demanded. "Their weapons are designed specifically to defeat our defenses. Their tactics are built to exploit our assumptions. Their entire military philosophy is based on fighting enemies like us." The weight of this revelation settled over the council like a shroud. The Zephyrian Empire had been the unchallenged masters of this galaxy for 3 centuries. Now they faced a species that had been studying them like insects under a microscope. "How many ships do they have?" asked War Counselor Thekaran. Vexstar exchanged glances with Krillana. "We don't know. During our encounter, human reinforcements arrived within minutes. Dozens of ships, all more advanced than anything we've ever seen. But their homeworld has a small population compared to our empire." Thekaran protested. "Yes, but their ships are automated. They don't need large crews. One human ship can operate with the same crew that would require hundreds of our people." Krillana added, "And their manufacturing capability is beyond our understanding. While we build ships one at a time in massive shipyards, they have automated factories that can produce entire fleets." High Counselor Zexthara stood slowly. She was old, even by Zephyrian standards, and had lived through the Empire's greatest victories. "Commander Vexstar, in your professional opinion, what would happen if we went to war with humanity?" Vexstar was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "We would lose, High Counselor. Not eventually. Not after a long campaign. We would lose quickly and completely." "You're certain of this?" "Yes, the humans don't. Just have better weapons. They have a better understanding of warfare itself." We fight to conquer. They fight to survive. And a species fighting for survival will always defeat a species fighting for glory. The council fell silent again. For generations, they had been the apex predators of the galaxy. Now they faced the terrible realization that they were not alone at the top of the food chain. Counselor Mercata finally spoke. "What do the humans want?" "To be left alone," Vextar replied. Admiral Hayes made it clear that they have no interest in conquest. They only want to protect their territory and their people. And if we leave them alone, then there will be peace. But High Counselor ... double quotes, Vextar hesitated. Yes, the humans made something very clear. If we ever threaten them again, they won't just defend themselves. They'll come for us. War Counselor Thikaron slammed his fist on the table. Are you suggesting we surrender our sovereignty to these ... these primitives? Vextar looked at him with something that might have been pity. Counselor, they're not primitives. That was our mistake. They're the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and we never saw them coming because they didn't want us to see them. High Counselor Zexthara walked to the great window that looked out over the capital city of the Zephyrian homeworld. Millions of citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that their empire's invincibility had been shattered in a single day. "Commander Vextar," she said without turning around, "what is your recommendation?" "We withdraw all military forces from human space. We establish a formal peace treaty, and we pray that they're as honorable as they claim to be." "And our expansion plans?" Vextar thought about the 17 systems his empire had conquered, and the billions of beings who lived under Zephyrian rule. For the first time, he wondered what those conquered peoples thought of their conquerors. Perhaps it's time to focus on governing what we have, rather than taking what others have built. The council debated for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Zephyrian Empire would seek peace with humanity. 6 months later, Vextar stood on the bridge of a diplomatic vessel approaching Earth. He had volunteered for this mission, despite, or perhaps because of, his role in the disastrous first encounter. The blue and green planet grew larger on his view screen, and he marveled at its beauty. It seemed impossible that such a peaceful-looking world could be home to the most formidable military force in the galaxy. "Incoming transmission from Earth Control," reported his communications officer. "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen, not a military officer, but a civilian diplomat. The woman smiled warmly. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Vextar. I'm Ambassador Linda Park. We're honored by your visit." Vextar was surprised by the greeting. He had expected cold military efficiency, not genuine warmth. "Thank you, Ambassador Park. I bring greetings from the High Council. We look forward to our discussions. And Commander, Captain Morrison asked me to tell you that he's glad you made it home safely." The alien commander felt something he had never experienced before when dealing with a conquered enemy, genuine remorse. These humans, who could have destroyed his entire fleet, had instead chosen mercy. They had sent him home with a message, and now they welcomed him as a guest rather than a defeated foe. "Ambassador," Vextar said quietly, "I owe your people an apology." "No, Commander. You owe your own people the truth. And from what I understand, you've already given them that." As his ship entered Earth orbit, Vextar looked down at the world below. He saw cities that sprawled across continents, space elevators reaching into the sky, and orbital stations that hummed with peaceful activity. It was a civilization built on cooperation rather than conquest. For the first time in his life, Vextar understood what his empire had been missing. They had spent centuries taking from others, never learning to build something worth protecting. The humans had built a world worth fighting for, and that made all the difference. The peace talks lasted 3 weeks. When they ended, the Zephyrian Empire and humanity had signed a treaty that would change the galaxy forever. The age of expansion through conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and in a small office in the Earth Diplomatic Building, Admiral Hayes met privately with Commander Vextar. "I want you to know," she said, "that we never wanted to be your enemies." Vextar nodded. "I understand that now." "I only